This is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank on the Voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. Our interviews are presented by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. As you've heard in our news cycle this morning, Governor Tom Wolf has decided to put a veto on a House bill that would give school districts some control over if sports can be played and how many people can actually watch and attend those sporting events. And, of course, this was a bill that was supported by many of Indiana County's legislators, including the Honorable Jim Struzzi, who's on the line with us right now, State House of Representatives member. Jim, how you doing this morning?
Good morning, Josh. I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Now let's go ahead and get to the meat of the matter here. Governor Wolf has put the veto down on this bill. What's your reaction? Was posted a little bit online last night. You said you were disappointed in the governor's action.
Well, absolutely, Josh. It's so frustrating that he waited basically until the 11th hour to veto this bill that would have allowed our local school districts to make the proper decisions on how to allow spectators at sporting events. There's no reason that you can't have parents and some spectators at outdoor events or even indoor events in a large arena. And I think the governor lost a lot of integrity whenever they allowed the Carlisle Car Show to have 20,000 people a day and up to 250 people at an indoor facility. So you scratch your head and you wonder, why did this occur? Why is the governor truly not listening to what the residents of Pennsylvania want? He claims that he wants to work with the legislature. Here was the perfect opportunity for him in a bipartisan manner to sign this bill, or at least allow it to go into law, to allow that local control to come back to our school districts. And I think, it's really a slap in the face of our school administrators, our school boards, and unfortunately these parents and these young athletes, because people can make their own decisions on their own health, particularly when it comes to an outdoor event where you can safely social distance, you can wear a mask, and all those things that are required by the CDC. And for the governor to wait until the last minute to veto this, it's truly sad.
It seems that once again, Governor Wolf has kind of fallen into a pattern of inconsistency, as you put it.
Well, again, it gets to a matter of integrity, and if you want to claim that you're following the science and you're following the data, then show us the science and data that says you can't have more than 250 people at an outdoor event. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all, particularly when you see some of these school districts that are basically ignoring the governor's edicts and doing their own thing. And again, adhering, though, to CDC guidelines. You can easily get 250 people on one set of bleachers, 250 people on another set of bleachers, 250 people on the field. If you get what I'm saying. I mean, there are ways to do this without these heavy-handed restrictions. And at this point, I've heard from so many parents, so many families, so many school administrators, and young athletes themselves who just want to have some sense of normalcy in their lives. Some of these kids are never going to get this opportunity again. Some of these families, I mean, it truly breaks your heart, and I have been more than frustrated over these past few months. It doesn't make any sense, and all we're asking for is some common sense, some rationality, and people need that desperately in their lives right now. And it doesn't make any sense to me to wait until 10 days after we pass that bill, then veto it. Josh, I'm telling you, it's not fair to people.
I can hear the frustration in your voice right now over the fact that the governor decided to wait the 10 days, which is the maximum amount of time he could wait to sign that veto or to put the bill into law.
Yeah, and if he would have chosen not to veto it, would have become law, which would have been perfectly fine. And then people could, make their own decisions about attending sporting events. And what's even worse, I mean, for people, I mean, it sickens me that people have to stand outside the fence and watch their children for outdoor events. But indoor events, you can't even get in. Mm-hmm. These young hockey teams, they can't even have a full team. I attended a meeting about 2 weeks ago out at the S&T Arena with the Pittsburgh Penguins Management Association talking about these issues. And, I mean, they're talking about using half the team for one half of the game and then sending them home and bringing the other half in. To me, that's ridiculous. When you have an arena that seats thousands of people, you can find a way to mark those seats to follow CDC guidelines and let people in, let these kids play. I mean, it's really beyond any logical reasoning, and I don't understand it. And I hope that it's not something that the governor did intentionally, just to basically, send a message to the legislature, because, we're all trying to get through this together. We're all trying to do the right thing for the people that we represent. And when the governor does things like this, you scratch your head and you say, okay, you said publicly you want to work with us. Here's a golden opportunity. You have a bipartisan piece of legislature supported, by the General Assembly in a bipartisan manner on both sides, and you veto it. And I just don't understand the logic behind that.
But now the legislature gets a chance to send a message back to Governor Wolf in the form of an override. The numbers, I think, do play out in this case. If they don't change, then the veto could be overridden.
Yes, and that is our intention, Josh. I'm not sure when that's going to occur. It could occur as soon as tomorrow. We're waiting to see what leadership decides. But at the very least, we're back in Harrisburg next weekend, and I am certain that we will be voting that veto override. And I think, again, it was passed in a bipartisan manner with strong bipartisan support. So I am very confident that we will have the votes for a veto override, and then I understand that they are planning to do the same thing in the Senate once we send it back to them.
We'll be talking with Senator Pittman in our next half hour about that, so we'll be sure to ask about that. But this has just been a long, strange season of the fact that we've been seeing a lot of these restrictions going up in place, but we're seeing some other things being eased off a little bit. We saw yesterday that with the self-certification process, restaurants will be allowed to go back to 50% capacity. And that's got to be a little bit of help and a little bit encouraging, I guess, for people who want to have some of that normalcy that you talked about.
Well, absolutely, Josh. We need to keep moving in that direction. We're seeing the numbers going in the right direction as far as hospitalizations and the severity of the cases that are being reported. And I think we need to continue to do that. There are so many other aspects related to health that are going to be consequences of this pandemic reaction, the mental health issues, and those types of things. We're seeing those numbers increase as far as drug and alcohol addictions and suicides. All those types of things come into play when people have been deprived of a social life and the fact that they can't watch their kids play sports or can't even play sports in some cases. And so we do have to continue to push in that direction. And I think it's good that we're doing that, but we need to do more. We need to continue to restart Pennsylvania. And we still have people calling my office, Josh, that have not claimed unemployment or received their unemployment benefits. So we have to continue to do all we can to help people get through this. And really, the bottom line is that's what people want. That's what people have been telling us for months. They want to make their own choices. People understand we've flattened the curve. We've done all the things that we were asked to do, and now it's time to let people get back to normal and make their own decisions about their own lives.
You're listening to Indiana in the Morning. I'm Josh Woodison with Jim Struzzi on the line with us. Jim, are you concerned about students at IUP maybe causing the rise in the current positivity rates for our neck of the woods?
Well, yeah, that did occur, unfortunately, but I do trust that IUP is doing all the right things. And a lot of these numbers you have to question some of the validity of these numbers, and because a lot of these cases are based on where they're reporting from their home addresses. And so they may be reporting these cases, and some of these kids may not even be in Indiana. And so I think you have to take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt. But, we're doing the right things. I'm sure that IUP is doing the right things. I speak regularly with Dr. Driscoll. So I think that, we're going to continue to – I was on IUP campus yesterday, for example.
Yeah.
And every student I saw was wearing a mask. They're doing the right things. They get the message. I know that there's some other factors that come into play. But I do think people understand, and I do think the numbers are moving in the right direction, despite the number of positive cases. You have to look, again, as I said, Josh, at the severity of the cases. We're not seeing an increase in hospitalizations. We're not seeing an increase in deaths or anything like that, and that's certainly not something that anyone wants to see. But I think even though you see the positive numbers, you have to appreciate that there are more people being tested. And all those factors have to come into play, and they have to be considered. And so... I think we're doing all the right things. I think we're moving in the right direction. And the bottom line, again, and I hear this, loudly from the people that I represent, is let us live. Let us get back to a normal life. We know what we need to do. Let us get back to work and let us watch our kids play sports.
One other reaction related to school. We were talking with Superintendent Curtis Weitzel earlier this morning. I don't know if you got a chance to hear that interview or not, but we were talking with him about the recent meeting that the superintendents had with the DEP, with the Department of Health, right, and the Department of Education. They gave that recommendation out, saying that maybe Indiana County should go to an all distance learning model. The superintendents are saying, though, no, we're going to keep things the way they are at this time. What's your reaction to that news and hearing that the superintendents are going to keep everything in status quo for now?
Well, I applaud the superintendents for making those decisions. I've spoken with several of them myself, and I've also spoken with the Department of Health. The Department of Health is only looking at the numbers. They're really not taking the context of those numbers, which is what we were just talking about. So I think it's important that those decisions are allowed to be made at the local level, and they've given that flexibility to our local school districts. So I think they know what's best for their students, what's best for our children. I trust them to make the right decisions, and I think they are making the right decisions. I know my kids right now are in their bedrooms at school, Josh, and to me that's not a good learning environment.
Yeah,
they're on their computers and they're doing their thing, but even they tell me that they would rather be in school. They only go 2 days a week. Of course, my youngest son, who's in 5th grade, goes 5 days a week. And they need that routine, though. They need that sense of learning in the classroom, interaction with other students, interaction with their teachers. They need that. It's part of growing up. It's part of learning the proper social skills. And sitting in front of a computer all day is just not healthy, I don't think, for a number of reasons. So I applaud these superintendents who are putting the kids back in school. I'd love to see my kids go 5 days a week, and I think that's a decision that should be allowed to be made by the parents. And so I'm going to continue to push for Pennsylvania to restart, to get things back to normal, to get our kids back to the classroom. And from the beginning of this conversation, Josh, to let parents watch their children play sports and to let the kids play.
All right. Jim Struzzi, member of the State House of Representatives, thank you very much for joining us this morning here on Indiana in the Morning to discuss these things, and we hope things go well for you going into next week whenever session resumes. Thanks again.
Thanks, Josh.